Morning, everyone. So this will be a quick video because it's 7 o'clock in the morning and I have a tournament to go to, I believe in like an hour or so. And I am playing Warriors. So there will be a report. It's a short one-day tournament, 3 games. And so I'll do a report on that. You can see my list in the other video I made. So this video, I just want to quickly go over 3 things I want to try in Warriors. It's funny. I tend to get very set on things I like to play, and then I tend to make a list with the same things all the time. And sometimes I don't think about maybe other setups out there or things I've tried in the past, bringing them back. And so on the screen are 3 things I want to try coming up. And we'll go through them. And hopefully, actually, I have a kind of an interesting video idea where in my video I talked about getting better. I said I think list building was like 10%. And while I still agree that it's not the most important thing in the world, when it comes to, I think as you become a better player, you can start reading the meta a bit more or using list building to give you options to make games, I don't know how to put it, maybe not easier, but, I think there is something to be said for overwhelming the enemy with options or situations. I think Malifaux had this a little bit more just because of the way Malifaux works, but I remember the list I played had a lot of little nuances to it and like things that could happen that maybe were hard to see even for me as a player. And so the harder it is to play, the more tricks there are, the harder it is to see all the tricks for the enemy. And I think the same can somehow be applied to Warhammer. Similar to when people I like to spam things because you see something's good and you spam it a bunch. And maybe the opposite's true, where if you just have little weird things or less spamming, it's more for people to deal with, and it can be harder to play against. Nonetheless, let's just talk about these things in a quick video, and I'll go into more detail about them probably another time. So. The first, we'll just focus on the core. This is a core setup that actually somebody else sent me. I was talking to somebody on the forums. He showed me a list. He showed me this core setup, and I started thinking about it more. And then I talked to some other people about it, and I actually think it's a pretty solid setup to use. It's kind of like we've talked about the triple warrior that fills the core nicely with 900 points. We've talked about the double 11-man units with 2 dog units. One has a standard, and that fits 900 exactly. So this one's 903, so you do need 3 extra points. And to be fair, it does. Sometimes those points do matter. But it's kind of like a middle ground between the two, right? One is 2 units and 2 chaff. One is no chaff, just 3 scoring units. This is 3 scoring units and 1.5 chaff pieces. And when I say 1.5 chaff pieces, you have the Warhounds, and I consider the Barbarian Horsemen half a chaff piece. If you think about it from a Flayer perspective, 5 Flayers is 145 points. They're 6-inch Vanguard, they move 20, they're fast cav, they have Strider. Barbarian Horsemen are more like Warhounds. They move 8. In fact, they don't even have the extra 22-inch march that Warhounds have. So if you think of the Barb Horsemen lined up 2x4, similar to how you line up dogs, they have pretty much the same maneuverability, except the dogs can go farther one turn. Obviously, Barb Horsemen have some advantages in that they have a better save. They have a 4 natural save versus the dog 0 save. I would probably take great weapons just because doing a strength 6 hit, if you get the chance to swing, is pretty nice. They're better at flanking than dogs. They also are leadership 8 rerollable, so they don't need the general to do terror checks and panic checks. They're also scoring. So, you can easily use them for chaff just like you do dogs, but if the game needs a fast score, or you just want to put some scoring unit on the flank, it kind of gives you the 3rd or 4th scorer. It's like the middle ground, right? In flags, you can just keep them away. Yes, they don't do as much as warrior units do. Obviously, warriors being, you could go, it just splits up a warrior unit. It makes it like half fighty, half chaff. And to be fair, it's probably a better setup than the double dog, double warrior setup because all you're really losing is 2 warriors and a standard. And you basically upgrade a dog unit to this barbarian horseman unit, which I think has a lot more. I mean, you can treat it just like a dog unit, right? And then all you're really missing is the extra warriors in the units, and it can be scoring in like breakthrough or even like it just spoils, right? It can sit there, land on a turn 1. Maybe if you have extra points, you can throw a musician on this unit, but you can defend it with an elder or something. I actually think this core unit has a lot of uses. So I think this is one to keep in the bag of perfect or close to perfect min core. And I don't think people should be afraid to go a little bit above min core. If you have 20 points left, give them shields or give them a standard or a champion depending on your army. But I like this. I like this more. It wasn't one that was in my arsenal. I also think you can do ones with big warrior units, but that kind of goes all out, or it's kind of weird with things. I do wonder if you could do. We're here. Let's just do it real quick. How many greed warriors can you get for this price? If I want to do. And again, I know you don't have to go min core. It's kind of just an experiment in min core. That's not bad. I'd say this isn't a bad core setup either. Because if you go, you can get, like, the other setup is 2 more warriors, drop this for a dog unit. So for 7 more points, you lose 2 warriors, which isn't nothing, but you get the extra scoring unit, which I think does help in some cases, when you need both. I do think you have to go, like, double scoring at a chaff. I mean, you still have to take 2 scoring probably outside of, at least 1 scoring outside of this. But anyway, think about that unit, and I think it actually goes well with, I just think it's nice to have a scoring / chaff unit, and it's still fast. 16 inches should be able to get in front of a lot of things. Sure, you can run a musician if you want to get really weird. You still want to have other dedicated chaff in your list, and actually the idea stemmed from building a list around all the concepts that I'm going to talk about in this video. So the next one is flares with skinning lash. So this isn't a new unit. There's people who've been taking it. I actually took it to a tournament like a year ago. I took it in a weird list, had like double helm. It was way back in the day. I'm not going to bring up a list back then. I took it to a 2-day event. Did pretty, I think came second or something. But I ran this unit, 10 flares with skinning lash. In fact, there's a video that Conrad made where he was making weird lists, and he made a unit with skinning lashes and mentioned me about it because we were talking about how cheap extra models are for flares. So again, people have run it since then. Definitely nothing crazy new, but I have done it before. So the idea behind the unit is, and this is where it's like, is it better on paper than is in game? Is it just you have to commit to using it because it is 275 points? That's pretty much a giant. But the idea behind it is you have 10 guys who are move 6, Strider, fast cav, move 10, sorry, Vanguard 6, move 10, Strider, fast little guys with reroll panics and all that, and they do auto hits to people, right? So they do 10 strength 4 auto hits, AP 0, which is essentially a large pyroclastic flow to a unit, right? That's 10.5 hits on average for the biggest one. And this is the same thing, just auto hits. And I guess the thought process behind it is, the thought process behind it is in just some matchups, warriors don't have any shooting really, unless you take like throwing weapons or something. So what if you just do auto hits to people, right? Think of, I don't know, you can just do it to other chaff pieces and try to trade chaff off. So like they have a 50% chance or so of one-shotting, 5 fast cab with shields with a 5-up save, or they have a 75% chance of killing 5 shades or killing 5 furies or something like that. And even if you don't kill them all, it kind of does open up the ability for, if you think about a typical warrior's magic phase, especially with a herald, where you maybe have pentagram or a small hellfire, it kind of opens up that to kill off the chaff piece rather than like honestly, like a big hellfire doesn't average killing 5 chaff, because it's 7 hits, 6 wounds, 2 saves are made, right? It's like 40 something. So when you think about it, it kind of pairs well in that case. It's kind of weird because the unit's big enough that it's expensive enough that you kind of don't want to use this chaff turn 1, so maybe you want to run it with the other chaff, or you just run it as chaff and make a 10-inch line with it and swipe one of the units. Right, just lash one of the units. Think of it. I mean, think of it as, trading points at that point, and that's it. I'm trying to think. This is where I wanted to make the other video with maybe more of a meta talk. Not meta, but like, does this help solve problems in matchups that you need help solving? Right. So one thing that's nice about it compared to 5 flares, for example, even though it's double the points, to be fair, is it War Machine hunts better. It can take light shooting better. It's not like killing 10 guys with shields. So this unit is 10 wounds with a 4 save, and it can go into terrain without taking wounds. I mean, being able to go in runes with fast cav is really big, because then you become -2 to shoot and it's harder to kill. Magic missiles aren't the greatest against it, and sure, maybe you thin them out and then they go and chaff you, and it's fine, right? You've now deferred shooting and magic to these guys, as opposed to them shooting your elders and your herald and your other units. So that the idea being that you have other units that need to be shot early, and that's why I think when I took this unit and I took 2 Hellmauls, I took like 1 elder, I didn't take a herald, I had like a big warrior unit and a big barb unit. Like, they were obvious targets, and I wasn't fast enough to kind of support them. But think of it. I mean, think of it versus, if you get behind somebody's army with these and they don't have the shooting to kill you, it can be really deadly. It can be really deadly to like keep getting lashed by them. I mean, they'll kill a giant in a couple turns. I mean, they average what, 3 wounds to a giant a turn, pretty much 2.5 wounds to a giant a turn. I mean, they do it twice and now you can kill it. They have strength 4 attacks if they need to flank somebody, for weird charges. They might not have the space. I think that's another big thing, to get next to somebody to sweep them. But they also influence deployment. What's the counter to them is to just be 26 inches away if I go first. But that's a big amount of space to be 26 inches away. Obviously, just 2 inches off the front line. But, they can still do things. I mean, scouts, vanguards, there's a lot of things that come to the middle of the board. I mean, even if, I'll give you an example. If you're playing Dark Elves, right, and they get to go first, and they get to scout and move and shoot you turn 1. Well, a lot of times your options to kill those scouts are charging them, maybe not something special. But if you have these guys around and maybe they start in cover, they take a wound, you might just one-shot the damn thing. Anyway, you might just sweeping attack it. Or another big one is somebody blocks you. I think a good example might be an ogre army runs up and puts a dog in front of your chosen knights. And you don't want to charge, but you also want to move forward or something, right? You want to move. You can actually sweeping attack the dog before the chosen knights move. He dies, and now the chosen knights can move past it. So you're essentially killing chaff and then unblocking yourself, potentially. Not to mention, it's kind of cool, it does the -1 discipline, so if you're against frenzy units, if you're causing panic checks, if you do it to the general's unit, let's say you're chaffing somebody's army, and you run up and you swipe their general's unit, do a wound, and then chaff their whole army. Their whole army is now -1 leadership for the turn because their general gets hit by the -1 discipline. So until the end of its next player turn. So yeah, so you don't get it for the beginning of your turn, which is unfortunate. You can't make it for terror checks, but for panic checks, I mean, there's a lot of uses for. I mean, you could potentially swipe somebody's general and then be in combat, and now that unit has -1 leadership when it's time to fight in combat because the general's there. Especially units that maybe heavily depend on their general, maybe only have a leadership 8 general, and then you swipe it for 7. I mean, I can think of a way where somebody has a Savage Orc unit with leadership 8 general. You swipe it, either the general or the unit, because the unit's -1 leadership, and now it's possibly taking a frenzy check on leadership 7 maximized, and could just be failed, and then they could charge you, and then they could die because of it. Again, it's one of those things that, does it solve issues? Does it create problems? It could be one of those units that no one really sees it a lot. No one really plays it well a lot. Like, no one's been crushing it with the 10-man flare unit. But I think usually, because it's only 275 points. So obviously the rest of the list needs to be good and the player needs to be good. It's not going to do all the work, but it's meant to be like a distraction or something they have to deal with. And sure, like I said, they might shoot it, but there's a whole army to shoot, like, behind it. Like, it's not like this is the only model you have to deal with. And if they deal with it, it becomes chaff, right? Worst case is, it's so hard to kill 10, and they have reroll panic and everything. Let's say they kill 7 of them, and there's 3 left. All right, you've taken a magic phase, maybe you took a bad magic missile, fuck it. Run in front of somebody and chaff them. And sure, you paid extra points for them, but if you would have just had normal chaff, like 2 units of flares, one of the units would have just died turn 1, right? So that's kind of the idea behind it. And I think you still have to take a unit of dogs, and maybe this is the perfect setup for this, because you really have, like, we have one true chaff in the dogs, you have a kind of a scoring chaff in the horsemen, and then you have a chaff, like, annoying it in the flares. Yeah, I want to try it. I really do. I think there could be space issues, and if people counter against it, it's not. I mean, listen, if people fuck up and you get to, like, lash them, go out of sight, and get behind them, and they don't have anything to get to you, that's a problem. And honestly, the unit's big enough to go war machine hunting as well, because it's super fast, and if people make a mistake, I just wonder, in an army with, like, Herald, 2 Elders, maybe other shit, does it open up enough avenues to kind of start getting weird and start being, like, a really good piece? I don't know the answer to that just yet, but I want to try it. The Barb Chief is something I've seen played by a couple people. Again, I think Panner Q plays it, and I've seen it in tournaments. I played against it before, and it just feels like it has a lot of potential. So if you take, for example, the Goblin Huntsman Spider that I used to run in Orcs, 300, I think 55 points, so 75 points more than this guy. Albeit that guy has a 1-up rerollable save, this guy just has a 1-up save. That guy has a better mount because it stomps. He also had 4 strength 5, 5 strength 5 AP 3. This guy has 4 strength 5 AP 6, no poison. So slightly different output. One could be said one's better. Probably the Goblin Hero is better output fighting wise. Let's not pretend he's not. And he has a better save because he's rerollable. Now, to be fair, this guy is also 75 points less, and that's a good chunk of points. I mean, it's like 20% points less. So the fact that he's not as good at fighting is fine. He also is move 20, Vanguard 6. So the Spider was Vanguard 12 the way I took it. But I had to keep him. I had to start him in my Goblin unit. He couldn't start anywhere. This guy can start anywhere on the board. He doesn't need anybody with him, and he moves 26 inches turn 1. Same as the Goblin Hero. Strider, just like the Goblin Hero. This guy also comes in a much faster army than the Spider Hero, because you're going with Heralds and Elders and stuff. The thing I really like about him, besides that, is he's a small base. He doesn't. He's leadership 9 with built-in rerolls. So that Spider Hero could tank a lot, but he had to be near my army because I need the BSB. I'm pretty sure this guy's leadership. I mean, there's no reason. Barbs are 7. This guy should be 9, right? Let me just double check so I don't feel like he might be 8. He is 9. Good. Perfect. So he's leadership 9. He gets built-in reroll panic checks and reroll break checks. If you have 25 points, sure, give him a trophy rack for some stuff. There are commentary where if you run him with the flares, it's nice to have reroll march checks, blah, 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 blah. But, I don't know, he's Strider, he can block, he's a chaff piece. Like this, let's say you took this setup, exactly everything I see you show here, and you just build a list around it, which I'll quickly do at the end, because I actually had a list and then deleted it. You have like one true chaff, and 3 of these things can be chaff. Sure, maybe the flares are really good, and they deal. So flares deal with 0 armor things, light armor things very well. 10 auto strength 4. The Shadow Chaser guy is a chaff piece that can lock down a lot of units with a 1-up save. Sure, it's not rerollable, that sucks. He has a small base, you can force clips. The thing is, like, ranked units are probably not breaking him, right? Even with the champ challenge, like, he's leadership 9. Like I said, Spider Hero, sure, if that Spider Hero was in general's range or had the BSB there, there's a good chance you're not going to break him. Though, to be fair, a ranked unit charging that Spider Hero is probably going to get, he's probably going to do 4 wounds, so he's going to lose by 1. So with everybody there, he's a rerollable 8, but without people there, he could just be a 7. This guy is at least a rerollable 8 or 7 by himself. He hunts war machines, and I think being moved 20 like after the fact is really big because you can get between things, you have more space. I'm not trying to, like, I think that Spider King is one of the best points for points, like, pieces out there as far as, like, single heroes go. So he's not trying to be that, because you don't need to be that in the Warriors list. That Spider King was one of the prime pieces in my Orc list. He's a secondary piece because when you build a list that you have to deal with the other pieces first, he just becomes another one that's like, whatever. But what was my big complaint, anyone who watched my Orcs videos about that Spider King, was he could not hide in units. He just, from both throwers or cannons, there's no unit that was his size that could protect him. As you can see in this setup right here, this guy has 2 units to protect him if like you have Lash, for example. Or if you're against bolt throwers. And he gets hatred and battle focus if he's in that unit. Is that the 2? Is it hatred, battle focus? I think it's both of those. Battle focus, hatred. So he would have 4 strength, 5 hatred. I mean, he might just kill a 1-up save hero by himself. I mean, he's a threat to do it, which is actually kind of spooky in its of itself, if you are the 1-up save hero person. So he's 280. He's super fast. He can split the gaps. He can hunt war machines. I mean, he can start with the flares. He can leave the flares. The flares, I thought one thing that might be cool and probably won't come up that often is, he starts with the flares. If he gets a lash off, and he can block while the flares lash. So, like one thing, like I said, if the flares can lash and get out of line of sight, they can do a lot of work. But maybe with a combination of some of these other fast pieces, you can lash and block and do more work than that. So it actually combos well together because you can always start him in the flares. You can start him away from the flares. You can start him in the barb horseman if you're really worried about light shooting or bolt throwers or something. Force people to shoot the barb horseman and say, I don't give a shit. He can run on his own if they don't have enough spells. I mean, listen, sure, if they have Mark for Doom and he's running by himself, maybe they'll cast it on him if they can see him, but he'll probably be on the flanks. Maybe at one shot. He's 280 points. I mean, he's an emergency chaff if you need to. He's fighty chaff because he beats a lot of things as well, and he's just and he can help because he's so fast with move 10 charges. He can actually help really well, like forcing clips with your guys. If you have, let's say you have elders or something, right? And you want to charge something, and you want to clip the elder, and he takes a lot of the hits because he's low. He's a 1-up save, and he's not as valuable. That can be done with your herald if he charges. He can take the challenges for you. 1-up save heroes are weirdly, they're not like OP versus warriors, but sometimes warriors have trouble with really high armor saves because we end up taking a lot of like strength 5 and 6 and not really strength, like really high strength or AP things, for example. So I do want to try this guy. He's another one of those pieces that gives you more options for people to make mistakes, and people have to worry about you. And I like that. I like that about him in this particular kind of a list. So if I was to build a list that was very similar to how I run Warriors, so again, I'm not going to make anything new here. Again, I'm more of a let's change things a little bit at a time. And I'm sure I'll come up with ideas or theories about, should we take this chariot guy? Should he be on a behemoth, which is actually a funny potential thing. It might actually work in this style list. I think as you change things and make large point changes, you start to get points to be able to do weird things like that. Let's see what else we can do. I had a list. What was my list? I think it was. I mean, you guys know me. I run Elders a lot. Paired weapons. Forsaken one. I think it was. Paired weapons. Position. I think this was the list. I'm missing something. Paired weapon. This is the list. I had 6 points left and nothing to buy. Yeah. I mean, this is I mean, you could drop this 20 points if you don't want shields, but I probably +1 save is probably worth it. Like, this is a pretty solid list. It's interesting. I don't know 100%. It has random movers. It has flares. It has a 1-up save hero. It has 1, 2, 3, 5 big key pieces. Everything's fast. It has 4 scoring. Nothing super big. Not like the Chosen Knight unit, though I don't think the Chosen Knight unit is good. This particular list just doesn't have it because it doesn't fit. You could drop this and get the Chosen Knight unit. You can the Forsworn and the Feldrax, and you can get the big Chosen Knights. You would have 50 points left over, 56 points, 720. That's 766. You'd have 46 points left over. So you'd have 50 points if you did it, right? Let's just do it. So I like this list. If you did this, drop this, and then you went Chosen Knights, because I think you need another scoring. And you went the Greed version with Flaming Standard, just because it looks nice. I think you have 50 points. Close enough. 52. So with 52 points, I don't know what you'd buy here for 52 points. I think that's probably the harder thing. And not that it's bad to have extra points. It's just, I don't know if you're really getting super value for those 52 points. Which is always like the weirdly hard thing with Warriors is you sometimes get like more points and you don't know what to do with it, and it's like very distinct breaks. I wonder how many points this is. So the guy we normally run is 460. So if you take off everything and just put him on a behemoth and just say, what's the bare behemoth cost? 560. You know what I always found really funny is that like he has to be the general, but an adept on a dragon is Warriors is the only army that can have an apprentice on a dragon, and in this case it would be like you're 48 points over. It's kind of cool, right? Like, damn, this core not being perfectly even is actually kind of annoying. Because you could drop the shields or the standard or something. Anyway, like that's not something I don't want to go too deep into these weird lists, but I do want to try like this package of this, and this, and maybe one makes the cut, maybe it doesn't. You know, maybe you say I like the hero, but I don't like the flare unit, or I don't like this core unit, and you want to go back to the other one where you have double dogs. Though I don't see why you would in this particular build. I almost don't know if there's any world where the double 11 mana 2/8 Warhounds is better than this. I just can't. I'll try it one day. I'm running it today, so we'll see. But the 11 guys are just there to get the points. But if you can do it to make the dogs better, maybe it's worth it there. Anyway, I will try to get games in with this type of thing and see if I like these pieces. I want to give them a better shot again. I tried flares long ago, and they were good. They were solid. Just I didn't build around them. In this particular build, or the one I actually like the other one a little better, just because I keep wanting using random movers, just because random movers are cool, and I think they actually provide like some annoyance. So like this army probably is the keyword. What am I? I have something that's. Oh, this guy should. Imagine this is the chariot guy. Just change it. I'm gonna just go crazy if I don't actually change him back to what he's supposed to be. I mean, I should have this guy saved somewhere. So I wish I could just save this and say, always build this guy. He always builds him. The nice part is I know how many points he is, so if I mess it up, I always know he's forcing. Like this list has everything. I'm not gonna go and proclaim, oh my god, it has everything. But it does have it has 4 scoring. It has weird chaff pieces that do different things. Like if you're against a lot of armor, he's going to be more valuable as non-chaff, and these might be better chaff. But people always have things like you can lash. Like it's always like the threat of it is always there. Whether they have war machines that you want to try to get behind them, whether they have manglers, for example. I think one thing that made me think of it is the tournament I'm playing in today has a guy with 2 mangler squids, and whatever they're called now, the manglers. I actually forget what they're called. Wrecking crew teams. And I'm like, damn it, man. Like, warriors don't have a good way to deal with them without some magic missiles or landing dogs on them. But lashes are perfect because lashes you don't actually land on people. You just lash them from an inch away and it instantly kills one. Well, it's like really high chances to kill one. It's 3 wounds on 10 dice, yeah. So you might just kill for free. Just turn 1. If people try to chaff you, if people want to vanguard up, it's just this interesting thing. And maybe in practice what's going to happen is they're going to focus everything on your guys, and they're going to be 3 models after turn 2, and you're not going to get to lash anything. But the lashes are only 40 points. Like a dragon, the breath weapon is 30 points or 20 points. How many points is that breath weapon? 30 points. I mean, if you get 1 shot out of this unit, if this unit lashes 1 unit that's decent, it's worth it from a 40 points perspective. The only thing that's maybe not quote unquote worth it is the fact that you have to take 10 of them, and then the unit becomes like, what do you do with that after the fact? But it still works for other things. Anyway, I gotta get ready for my tournament. Thanks for listening.